Hey everybody, it is Mike Young, 54 years young. Thanks so much for joining us here today. I've got on my phone the Dean Ornish study that was released earlier this year. And I think it's one of the most important studies ever released, ever. And I've never read a study until today, but I want to read a study. And keep in mind, this is one theory of dementia and how it takes place and what you can do about it. And this study, the release of it, and like I said, I haven't read the whole thing. I've read many articles on it, though. And I'm not Dr. Michael Greger, who reads all the science, so you don't have to or whatnot. But I'm going to read it to you, and I'm going to give you my opinions, kind of my review and my comment on what's going on with this entire article. So I'm just checking the recording, make sure we've good there. And this is a 17-page document. Okay. So I'm going to try to get through this as fast as I can. Just kind of read through quickly the less important points and then focus on the greater points. Keep in mind also the reason why I feel this is so important is because Denise and I, my mother-in-law, her mother has had dementia diagnosis for over 10 years, has been taking pharmaceuticals and all types of other traditional standard of care type stuff, and has not gotten better. She's gotten worse over time. And you can actually, I'm going to link down below here in the comments. First thing that you'll see is a link to an interview I did with Dr. Peter Rogers, where he gives his ideas in terms of what's going on with Alzheimer's, his theory of Alzheimer's, which is very slightly from this. So that's a full interview. Me and him talked for over 2 hours about his theory, and he explains a deep dive into all the science there. So I highly recommend that you check that out if you haven't looked at it already. And another thing I want to point out is that Denise and I just went up to Toronto for a lifestyle medicine event with a friend of ours that she put together. It was awesome. And I don't want to name any names, but there were some other people that kind of deal with this stuff too. And right away, in their presentation, they were talking about Alzheimer's and dementia. They said right away, I don't want to give any false impressions. You cannot reverse this disease. And I'm like, whoa, this kind of a little bit different than the overviews that I've seen of this Dr. Ornish study. So we're going to read through the whole thing. And by the way, those folks in their talk that focus specifically on that, they didn't even mention the study. And my guess is it's just that they're competitors, and that's kind of bad because we want the best for everybody. Like our organization here, aPlantBasedDiet.org, we are public education. This is a message for everybody. Everybody needs a message of hope. Excuse me. I just had my banana and ice cream. It's still digesting. And by the way, it's awesome, banana and ice cream. Instead of getting that super high-fat stuff, plant-based stuff in the frozen section, much better. But I was disappointed that it wasn't mentioned. I wish it was, because this does talk about how to reverse it, at least in early stages. Because as these folks did say, once the brain cells die, they do die. I think everybody acknowledges that. But before that happens, can you do something about it to reverse it? That's the question. All right, let's get into it. Leave all your comments down below, please, and share this with anyone that can benefit. Oh, let me also mention, we're going to go to my mother-in-law's doctor's appointment in 2 days. And Denise has been studying. We've been practicing what we're going to say. She has 15 minutes in a private appointment where only her and one other person can attend. It's going to be the day after her mom's regular checkup, and she's going to hopefully convince this person to change the protocol, and maybe we'll see some type of improvement or at least a stoppage of worsening. That's the idea. Okay, let's get into it. So that's what you can expect from taking the time to listen to the 17-page document I'm going to read to you. And I'm going to also down below post as much as I can of the text. I think there's a big limit, and it's not all 17 pages aren't going to be there, but I'll post some of it anyway. All right, it was released earlier this year, and I'm recording this in early October 2024. Effects of intensive lifestyle changes on the progression of mild cognitive impairment or early dementia due to Alzheimer's disease, a randomized controlled clinical trial. And then we see Dr. Dean Ornish's name there, along with about, 20 others that I'm not going to read. And by the way, I'll also link the exact link to the PDF of this file if it's publicly available. It may get taken down, and that's why I'm recording this too, because things mysteriously disappear, and that's not good. All right, abstract background. Extensive links Sorry. Oh my gosh. I am not used to doing this. I will get better as I go, I promise. Evidence links lifestyle factors with Alzheimer's disease, AD. We report the first randomized controlled clinical trial to determine if intensive lifestyle changes, aka lifestyle medicine, which we are big fans of, may beneficially affect the progression of mild cognitive impairment, MCI, or early dementia due to AD. So early dementia, that's the other thing. You don't expect anything to happen with later on stuff where the brain cells have actually died, okay? This is talking about when you, like at first onset, I think, something like that, okay? And of course, even at first onset, we all know that this has been building up for probably decades of bad habits. That's what it is. If you follow the lifestyle medicine anyway. Remember, lifestyle medicine has 6 pillars, and our healthy vegan food, learn more at healthyveganfood.info, also has 6 pillars for the food. Methods: a 1-to-1 multi-center randomized controlled phase 2 trial, ages 45 to 90, with MCI or early dementia due to AD, and a Montreal Cognitive Assessment, MOCA, score of 18 or higher. The primary outcome measures were changes in cognitive function and tests, Clinical Global Impression of Change, CGIC, Alzheimer's Disease Assessment Scale, ADAS-COG, Clinical Dementia Rating, Sum of Boxes, CDR-SB, and Clinical Dementia Rating Global, CDR-G. After 20 weeks, keep this in mind, 20 weeks, that's not long, of an intensive multi-domain lifestyle intervention compared to a wait list usual care. And I want to point out usual care, meaning standard of care. And as I talk about with Dr. Peter Rogers, again, link down below, watch that video if you really want to learn about this, which I highly recommend that you do. Don't ask for the standard of care. You want to ask for the optimal level of care. And of course, optimal level of care is going to require habit changes. It's going to require personal interior type work. Okay, and it's going to require a supportive family, I'd say. All these things have to line up, and you can do it. So make sure you do that. All right, where are we? Okay, lifestyle medicine compared to a wait list usual care control group. ADAC-COG, CDR-SB, and CDR-Global scales were compared using a Mann-Whitney-Wilcoxon rank sum test, and CGIC was compared using Fisher's exact test. Secondary outcomes included plasma, AP42-40 ratio, other biomarkers, and correlating lifestyle with the degree of change in these measures. And results: 51 AD patients enrolled. Mean age was 73.5. No significant differences in any measures at baseline. So it sounds like everybody was scoring around about the same on these tests. Initially, anyway. Only 2 patients withdrew, so they were left with 49. All patients had plasma AB 42-40 ratios of less than 0.0672 at baseline, strongly supporting AD diagnosis. After 20 weeks, that's 5 months, less than half a year, significant between group differences in the CGIC, which is 0.001, the CDR-SB of 0.032, and CDR Global 0.037 tests, and borderline significance in the ADAS-COG test with a 0.053, CGIC, CDR Global, and ADAS-COG showed improvement in cognition and function, and CDR-SB showed significantly less progression compared to the control group, which worsened in all 4 measures. AB 42-40 ratio increased in the intervention group and decreased In the control group, with a value of 0.003, there was a significant correlation between lifestyle and both cognitive function and the plasma AB 42-40 ratio. The microbiome improved only in the intervention group with a value of 0.0001. So overall, this is a summary up front anyway. They're telling you that anybody who was in the lifestyle medicine group got better within 5 months. And anyone who was using the regular standard of care got worse in just 5 months. Okay, that's not even that long. You can imagine, you extrapolate that over years. I've told you at the beginning of this video, our mother-in-law has been diagnosed for 10 years. That is a lot of worsening progression. We're saying it's not gotten better, it's only gotten worse. This is some really good news. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Conclusions: comprehensive lifestyle changes may significantly improve cognitive and function after 20 weeks in many patients with MCI or early dementia due to AD. So they're saying right here that they are witnessing significant improvements in cognition and function. That sounds like a reversal of some sort to me. Is that to you? If so, write reversal in the comment, okay? Again, I want to tell you, with the people that talked were at the talk in Toronto, they said there is no reversal possible. And I just don't understand the difference. If you all understand why they would say that when this amazing study was just released, a legit study, please let me know in the comments. Trial registration approved by Western Institutional Review Board on 12/31/2017 and by Institutional Review Board of all sites. The study was registered retrospectively with clinicaltrials.gov on October 8th, 2020, with the numbers NCT 046-06420 ID 201-72897. Keywords: Alzheimer's, diet, nutrition, exercise, stress management, lifestyle medicine, social support. So that's an overall summary. Let's get into the details right away because we don't have that much time. Background: increasing evidence links lifestyle factors with the onset and prevention of dementia, including AD. Those include unhealthful diets, being sedentary. Oh, by the way, I am jumping around. I'm up and down. I am not sitting down, okay? I am as anti-sedentary as possible without actually walking outdoors, and the sound is usually not good when we do that. And the camera is not steady. Those include unhealthful diets, being sedentary, emotional stress, and social isolation. Yeah, not good. And it's not hard to make friends, even online nowadays, okay? So that shouldn't be an issue. For example, a Lancet Commission on Dementia, Prevention, Intervention, and Care listed 12 potentially modifiable risk factors that together accounted for an estimated 40% of the global burden of dementia, 40%. Many of these factors, e.g. hypertension, smoking, depression, type 2 diabetes, obesity, physical inactivity, and social isolation, are also risk factors for coronary heart disease and other chronic illnesses because they share many of the same underlying biological mechanisms. These include chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, insulin resistance, telomere shortening, sympathetic nervous system hyperactivity, and others. All right, these are some somewhat complicated things, but they're all related. I can tell you, this study is it's taking a lot into consideration. A recent study reported that, and by the way, all these are footnoted too. Like that one right there is a footnote. Next one I'm going to read to you here has a footnote. A recent study reported that the association of lifestyle with cognition is mostly independent of brain pathology, though a part estimated to be only 12% was through amyloid. I think that's the amyloid plaque. It's a B amyloid. I'm unfamiliar with these studies. If it's a B-amyloid and that's amyloid plaque, you can let me know in the comments because that's what we've heard. And actually, the study the 2-hour interview I have below with that link with Dr. Rogers, he does say that there may be some amyloid plaque issues here, but that's not the main reason for dementia. So only 12% it says here. So that does follow along with what Dr. Rogers was saying. And it's not exactly what these other folks were saying who didn't bother to mention this study. Just pointing that out. In one large prospective study of adults 65 or older in Chicago, the risk of developing AD was 38% lower in those eating high versus low amounts of vegetables and 60% lower in those consuming omega-3 fatty acids at least once a week. Now that, I don't know, that last part, I agree with that. I mean, yeah, that's what they found, but whether, that's questionable in my opinion. Whereas consuming saturated fat and trans fats more than doubled the risk of developing AD. Now, that makes sense. All these are footnoted, by the way, and you're going to have to get the study to look at all the footnotes down below. Oh, and by the way, if you want me to email you a copy of this, I can email you a hard copy in case it goes away on the internet. Send me an email to aPlantBasedDiet.org at gmail.com. aPlantBasedDiet.org at gmail.com to say you want a copy of this. I will send it right to you. It's just a PDF attachment. Oh, and by the way, we do an annual health optimization cruise where we talk about all this stuff, and we do 100% healthy vegan food. Learn more at healthoptimizationcruise.org. That's in January, going down the Caribbean, leaving from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, healthoptimizationcruise.org. And of course, I didn't bring my water in here. Oh, man. Okay. All right. I'm going to keep talking. A systematic review and meta-analysis of 243 observational prospective studies and 153 randomized controlled trials found a similar relationship between these and similar risk factors and the onset of AD. That's also footnoted. The multifactorial etiology and heterogeneity of AD, oh my God, you can tell I've never read a study before, of AD suggests that multi-domain lifestyle interventions may be more effective than single-domain ones for reducing the risk of dementia, and that more intensive multimodal lifestyle interventions may be more efficacious than moderate ones at preventing dementia. That makes sense. The more you do, the better results you get. For example, in the Finnish geriatric intervention study, FINGER study, a RCT of men and women 60 to 77 in age with cardiovascular risk factors, aging, and incidence of dementia, CAIDE, dementia risk scores of at least 6 points in cognition of mean or slightly lower, a multimodal intervention of diet, exercise, cognitive training. Cognitive training. Wait, am I reading this correctly? Sorry, I'm in the next. Yeah, cognitive. That doesn't seem right. Yes, it does. I'm almost at the end of the second page. Wow. Training vascular risk monitoring maintained cognitive function after 2 years in older adults at increased risk of dementia. So they maintained, okay? Not saying they got better, but they maintained. That's still good news. Like I said, with my mother-in-law, we want her to maintain. That would be awesome if that could happen. After 24 months, global cognition in the FINGER intervention group was 25% higher than in the control group, which declined. Yeah, that's so cognition's getting better in the intervention group, declining in the regular old control group, meaning your regular old patient who has dementia, standard of care. Moreover, the FINGER intervention was equally beneficial regardless of several demographic and socioeconomic risk factors. And apolipoprotein E, APOE. I've heard this before, but I don't know how to pronounce it. This is say APOE status. The FINGER lifestyle intervention also resulted in a 13 to 20% reduction in rates of cardiovascular disease events, stroke, transient ischemic attack, or coronary, proving more evidence that what's good for the heart is good for the brain and vice versa. That's footnoted. Other large-scale multimodal intervention studies to determine if this intervention can help prevent dementia are being conducted or planned in over 60 countries worldwide. Cool. As part of the worldwide FINGERS network, including the Pointer study in the US. And there's footnotes for that. More recently, a similar dementia prevention-oriented RCT showed that a 2-year personalized multi-domain intervention led to modest improvements in cognition and dementia risk factors in those at risk for, but not yet diagnosed with dementia and AD. All right. So they didn't quite have the full diagnosis yet, but they were at risk, and they reversed it. And these other ones, the FINGER group, I think that they had I think that it seems like they were diagnosed with AD, and they were also reversing it. Again, it's saying that here. So that is awesome. All right. All these studies showed that lifestyle changes may help prevent dementia. That says it all right there. The study that we are reporting here is the first randomized, controlled clinical trial to test whether intensive lifestyle changes may beneficially affect those already diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment or early dementia due to AD. So maybe these other folks weren't actually officially diagnosed. In 2 earlier RCTs, we found that the same multimodal lifestyle intervention described in this article resulted in regression of coronary atherosclerosis as measured by quantitative coronary arteriography and ventricular function, improvements in myocardial perfusion as measured by cardiac PET scans, and 2.5 times fewer cardiac events after 5 years, all of which were statistically significant. Until then, it was believed that coronary heart disease progression could only be slowed, not stopped or reversed, similar to how MCI or early dementia due to AD are viewed today. Okay, this sounds like a study, it's all footnoted, that were done by Dr. Ornish, I believe, that showed that he could reverse these types of things, these circulatory system issues. And since AD and coronary heart disease share many of the same risk factors and biological mechanisms, and since, next page, page 3, moderate multimodal lifestyle changes may help prevent AD, we hypothesized that a more intensive multimodal intervention proven to often reverse the progression of coronary heart disease and some other chronic diseases may also beneficially affect the progression of MCI or early dementia due to AD. That's their hypothesis. Okay, we report here results of randomized controlled trial to determine if the progression of MCI or early dementia due to AD may be slowed, stopped, or perhaps even reversed by a comprehensive multimodal intensive lifestyle intervention after 20 weeks when compared with a usual care randomized control group. This lifestyle intervention includes 1, a whole foods, minimally processed, plant-based diet, low in harmful fats and low in refined carbohydrates and sweeteners with selected supplements. Interested that they put supplements, but our healthy vegan food, learn more at healthyveganfood.info, has 6 pillars. No animal products, no alcohol, has to have plant fiber in the finished dish of whatever it is that you're preparing. And if it's a whole food, you don't have to do anything, just eat it whole. And then no added oil, no added salt, and no refined sugar as defined by T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies. So you can use dates, agave, and maple syrup, but nothing else. So it sounds just like what Dr. Ornish is just saying here, okay? It's not an end-all be-all, but it's way better than what the average person is eating. So you would expect if food has something as a component that has something to do with it, you're going to see improvement, I would hope. All right, number 2, after that food is moderate exercise. Number 3, stress management techniques. Number 4, support groups. All right, so you're not isolated. You're dealing with whatever demons you got in your mind that's playing over and over again in your head, and you're actually moving. You're getting physical exercise like me. Moving while recording this video. I'm not moving, but actually I can move a little bit, right? If you see me move like this, it's just because I'm tired of standing in one place, and it's better than sitting. Anything's better than sitting. Sitting is a new smoking. Remember that. Oh, and by the way, a little plug for my free book, totally free, Live to 150. Go to liveto150.org, liveto150.org. Totally free. Listen to it like a podcast, like this video, really long play thing, right? And just when you're on your commute or traveling or going to bed, hopefully it won't put you to sleep, but maybe it will, and then you'll learn it while you're asleep. You can do it that way. I actually think that works. I don't know if there's any studies on that, but that's interesting. This intensive multimodal lifestyle modification, RCT, sought to address the following questions. Question number 1, can the specified multimodal intensive lifestyle changes beneficially affect the progression of MCI or early dementia due to AD as measured by the AD Assessment Scale Cognitive Subscale ADAS.COG CGI-IC Clinical Global Impression of Change, CDR-SB, Clinical Dementia Rating, Sum of Boxes, and CDR-G, Clinical Dementia Rating Global Testing, question mark. Number 2, is there a significant correlation between the degree of lifestyle change and the degree of change in these measures of cognition and function? Question number 3, is there a significant correlation between the degree of lifestyle change and the degree of change in selected biomarkers, e.g. the plasma AB42/40 ratio? Is that only? Make sure this is in 2 columns. Each page is 2 columns wide, so it's actually more like 2 pages. All right, methods. Participants and methods. This study was a 1-to-1 multi-center RCT during the first 20 weeks of the study, and these findings are reported here. Patients who met the clinical trial inclusion criteria were enrolled between September 2018 and June 2022. Participants were enrolled who met the following inclusion criteria: male or female, ages 45 to 90. I'm 54. I could have been in there. Current diagnosis of MCI or early dementia due to AD process with an MOCA score of 18 or higher, National Institute on Aging's Alzheimer's Association, McCann and Albert 2011 criteria. Just because I forgot to have my glass of water here with me does not mean I have AD, and I'm sure I don't. So you have to make sure we're legit people is what they're saying. Physicians shared this diagnosis with the patient and approved their participation in this clinical trial. So their own doctor said it's okay. Willingness and ability to participate in all aspects of the intervention. Yeah, you're not going to say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. They're going to do it regardless because they actually want to try to do the best that they can. And they care about their condition, which is awesome. I love when I hear people like that because so many people are closed-minded. These are open-minded people. That's all you need to make positive progress, in my opinion. All right, and then availability of space or caregiver to provide collateral information and assist with study adherence. So they were overseen by somebody. Patients were excluded if they had any of the following. First thing, moderate or severe dementia, excluded. I don't know how they determine that, because they don't say here. Physical disability that precludes regular exercise, meaning they're super, super overweight. They got joint problems. They have back problems. They can't get out of bed. They don't like to move. They just like to watch TV and they're lazy boy. I guess, I don't know, whatever physical, they don't say what physical disability here. They just said if you have a physical disability. I don't know. Okay. Evidence for other primary causes of neurodegeneration or dementia, e.g. significant cerebrovascular disease, whose primary cause of dementia was vascular in origin, Lewy body disease, Parkinson's disease, or FTD. So any of those conditions, they were excluded. Significant ongoing psychiatric or substance abuse problems, they were also excluded. All right, and yeah, okay. Just to remind you, no alcohol in our standards. So anybody's drinking alcohol all the time, aka substance abuse problems, they were not allowed. Okay, because those another reason to stop drinking. They won't let you do a test like this. All right. I'll participate in the study. 51 participants with MCI or early stage dementia due to AD who met these inclusion criteria were enrolled between September 2018 and June 2022 and underwent baseline testing. 26 of the enrolled participants were randomly assigned to an intervention group that received the multimodal lifestyle intervention for 20 weeks, and 25 participants were randomly assigned to a usual habits and care control group that was asked to make any lifestyle changes for 20 weeks, after which they would be offered the intervention. Patients in both groups received the standard of care treatment managed by their own neurologist. All right, so they were randomly chosen, they're saying. That's what they're saying. Randomly assigned to the intervention group or to the control group. Okay, I'm trying to read this. Yeah, usual habits, intervention. Okay, gotcha. The intervention group received the lifestyle program for 20 weeks, initially in person, then by synchronous Zoom, which is how I'm recording this actually and broadcasting on our YouTube channel after March 2020 due to COVID-19. Okay. So they started out in person. I bet Dr. Ornish was freaking out saying, oh my gosh, I'm starting to study. Now we can't do it. Thanks to Zoom, they could do it. That's why I'm saying you can make friends on the internet. And I'm sure they determined through here, you just got to keep talking to people, talk to real humans. Okay. Have a kind of a relationship. 2 participants who did not want to continue these lifestyle changes withdrew during this time. Okay, that's probably the people that really did not want to do this computer stuff. They had to do it in person. That's my guess anyway. Both in the intervention group, one male, one female. They were both in the intervention group. Okay. Participants in both groups completed a follow-up, but they didn't know that, I don't think. Completed a follow-up visit at 20 weeks where clinical and cognitive assessments were completed. Data were analyzed comparing the baseline and 20-week assessments between the groups. In a drug trial, access to an investigational new drug can be restricted from participants and a randomized control group. However, we learned in our prior clinical trials of this lifestyle intervention with other diseases that it is often difficult to persuade participants who are randomly assigned to a usual care group to refrain from making these lifestyle changes for more than 20 weeks, which is why this time duration was chosen. Okay, 20 weeks is as long as somebody can hold out. If participants in both groups made similar lifestyle changes, then it would not be possible to show the differences between the groups. True. Therefore, to encourage participants randomly assigned to control group not to make lifestyle changes during the first 20 weeks, we offered to provide them the same lifestyle program at no cost to them for 20 weeks after being in the usual care control group and tested after 20 weeks. Oh, okay. That's interesting. All right, page 4. Oh. We initially planned to enroll 100 patients into the study based on power calculations of possible differences between groups in cognition and function after 20 weeks. However, due to challenges in recruiting patients, especially with the COVID-19 emergency, and that many pharma trials begin recruiting patients with similar criteria, it took longer to enroll patients than initially planned. Footnote, because of this, we terminated recruitment after 51 patients were enrolled. This decision was based only on recruitment issues with limited funding without reviewing the data at the time. Okay, so yeah, they had a hard time finding people, basically. Interesting. Wow. It seems like this is an epidemic. I wouldn't think they'd have a hard time, but like I say, you got to compete with pharma for these people. All right. Patients were recruited from advertisements, presentations at neurology meetings, referrals from diverse groups of neurologists and other physicians, and a search of an online database of patients at UCSF. That's University of California, San Francisco. We put a special emphasis on recruiting diverse patients, although we were less successful in doing so than we hoped. There's a footnote there. Oversight. This clinical trial was approved by the Western Institutional Review Board on December 31st, 2017, approval number 201-72897. And all participants and their study partners provided written informed consent. The trial protocol was also approved by the appropriate institutional review board of all participating sites, and all subjects were provided informed consent. Due to COVID-19 emergency, planned MRI and amyloid PET scans were no longer feasible. Okay, and the number of cognition and function tests was decreased. An initial inclusion criterion of, quote, current diagnosis of mild to moderate dementia due to AD, McCann et al., 2011, unquote, was further clarified to include a MOCA score of 18 or higher. This study was registered with the clinicaltrials.gov on October 8, 2020, NCT 046064420, unique protocol ID 201-72897, retrospectively due to an administrative error. Retrospective. None of the sponsors who provided funding for the study participated in this design, conduct, management, or reporting of the results. Those providing the lifestyle intervention were separate from those performing testing and from those collecting and analyzing the data who were blinded to group assignment. Blinded, not blended. All authors contributed manuscript draft revisions, provided critical comment, and approved submission for publication. Any modifications in the protocol were approved in advance and in writing by the senior biostatistician Charles McCulloch, PhD, or the senior expert neuropsychologist Doreen Rentz, PsyD, and subsequently approved by the WIRB. Setting. Patients were initially recruited from only the San Francisco Bay Area beginning October 2018 and met in person until February 2020 when the COVID-19 pandemic, second column, began. Subsequently, this multimodal lifestyle intervention was offered to patients at home in real time via Zoom. Offering this intervention virtually provided an opportunity to recruit patients from multiple sites, including the Massachusetts General Hospital, Harvard Medical School, Boston MA, and the University of California. Excuse me. That's my banana and ice cream, which hopefully is helping out with the moisture in my mouth, so I don't even need this water I was talking about. In the University of California, San Diego, and renowned regional medical center, Reno, Nevada, as well as with neurologists in the San Francisco Bay Area. These participants were recruited and tested locally at each site, and the intervention was provided via Zoom, and foods were sent directly to their home. Patient recruitment. This is described in the supplemental materials section. They describe patient recruitment. Intensive multimodal lifestyle intervention. Each patient received a copy of a book which describes this lifestyle medicine intervention for other chronic diseases. That's footnoted. Diet. Okay, here we go. This is it. It's all about the food. It's all about the food. At least we think at least 60% of it's about the food, at least. A whole foods, minimally processed, plant-based, in parentheses, vegan diet, high in complex carbohydrates, in parentheses, predominantly fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, soy products, seeds, and nuts, unparentheses, and that means whole plant carbohydrates, which are totally different from processed carbohydrates, which are food, which are processed food. Processed carbohydrates are processed food. Whole carbohydrates are actual real food that your body recognizes. All right. And especially low in harmful fats, sweeteners, and refined carbohydrates. It was approximately 14-18% of calories as total fat. That's kind of high in my opinion. I think you normally want maybe between 10 to 15. This is 14 to 18, so it's a little higher than I would like. 16 to 18% protein, also a little higher than I would like, and 63 to 68% mostly complex carbohydrates. All right. Calories were unrestricted. That's it. Yeah. Zero portion control. Those with higher caloric needs were given extra portions. That's me. Always going back for seconds, thirds, even though it doesn't look like it. That's what I do. I have to do it because you're eating low calorie density. To assure that the high adherence and standardization required to adequately test the hypothesis, 21 meals a week and snacks plus the daily supplements listed below were provided throughout the 40 weeks of this intervention to each study participant and his or her spouse or study partner at no cost to them. Twice a week, we overnight ship to each patient as well as to their spouse or study partner 3 meals plus 2 snacks per day that met the nutritional guidelines as well as the prescribed nutritional supplements. Now, I don't know if they mentioned these supplements or not. We're not real big fans of supplements unless it's B12 or vitamin D if you need it. B12 definitely. We asked participants to consume only the food and nutritional supplements we sent to them and no other foods. We reasoned that if adherence to the diet and lifestyle intervention was high, whatever outcomes we measured would be of interest. That is, if patients in the intervention group were adherent but showed no significant benefits, that would be a disappointing but important finding. If they showed improvement, that would also be an important finding. But if they did not follow the lifestyle intervention sufficiently, then we would not have been able to adequately test the hypothesis. Yes. So they're still hoping. They're still hoping on compliance, which is always the biggest issue. And people not doing what they say they do, a huge issue. Okay. But I'm a little bit concerned that this was all done remotely because it's even harder to ensure compliance. A lot of times, when you do a retreat or like our health optimization cruise, okay, which is basically like an immersion, then you hope if you see the people, you know what they're eating. You got it. It's harder to tell with this kind of thing. So, but that's life. That's how it is. You got to give people freedom, and you hope they're telling the truth. Exercise, aerobic, e.g. walking at least 30 minutes a day and mild strength training exercises. I did my workouts today. Yeah, at least 3 times per week from an exercise physiologist in person or with virtual sessions. That's good. Ensure compliance. Patients were given a personalized exercise prescription based on age and fitness level. All sessions were overseen by a registered nurse. That's good. Stress management. Meditation, gentle yoga-based poses, stretching, hopefully they included plank, progressive relaxation, breathing exercises and imagery for a total of 1 hour per day, supervised by a certified stress management specialist. The purpose of each technique was to increase the patient's sense of relaxation, concentration, and awareness. They were also given access to online meditations. Patients had the option of using flashing light glasses at a theta frequency of 7.83 hertz plus soothing music as an aid to meditation and insomnia. If you ask me, a lot of insomnia has to do with not getting enough aerobic exercise during the day. You're not tired. They were also encouraged to get adequate sleep. Yeah, you need if you exercise and you don't eat wrong, I'd say, and you're not consuming a whole bunch of alcohol, which will make you go to sleep, but then disturb your sleep, you should be fine with sleeping. But you got to get that exercise. I'm so glad that they had somebody following them. That way they ensured the compliance. Group support. Participants and their spouses, study partners participated in support group for 1 hour sessions 3 days a week, supervised by a licensed mental health professional in a supportive, safe environment to increase emotional support and community, as well as communication skills and strategies for maintaining adherence to the program. They also received a book with memory exercises used periodically during group sessions. To reinforce this lifestyle intervention, each patient and their spouse or study partner met 3 times a week, 4 hours per session via Zoom. 1 hour of supervised exercise, aerobic plus strength training, 1 hour of stress management practices, stretching, breathing, meditation, imagery. So most of this was done remote. 1 hour of a support group, 1 hour lecture on lifestyle. Additional optional exercise and stress management classes were provided. Supplements. Okay, here we go. Omega-3 fatty acids with curcumin 1680 milligrams, omega-3 and 800 milligrams curcumin, Nordic Naturals Pro Omega CRP 4 capsules a day. Omega-3 fatty acids. In those 65 or older, those consuming omega-3 fatty acids once a week had 60% lower risk of developing AD, and a total intake of N3 polyunsaturated fatty acids was associated with a reduced risk of Alzheimer's disease. Curcumin targets inflammatory and antioxidant I'm going to go back up pathways, right? Ways, as well as directly amyloid aggregation, though there may be problems with bioavailability and crossing the blood-brain barrier. Next one, multivitamin and minerals, Solgar VM75 without iron, 1 tablet a day. Combinatorial formulations demonstrate improvement in cognitive function and the behavior difficulties that accompany AD. Coenzyme Q10, this is the next one, 200 milligram, Nordic Naturals, 2 soft gels per day. CoQ10 may reduce mitochondrial impairment in AD by taking a supplement. All right, if you watched my interview with Dr. Rogers and the one before that, where I interviewed him on general things about just increasing health span and longevity, he talks about mitochondrial impairment all the time. He has like 50 different things that can impair. And he doesn't ever talk about taking supplements. So that, coenzyme Q10, I'll have to ask him about that in the future. Also, next one, vitamin C, 1 gram, Solgar, 1 tablet a day. Maintaining healthy vitamin C levels may have a protective function against age-related cognitive decline in AD. I would advise instead having lots of fruit, especially right behind me, a pineapple. Lots of pineapples. I had 4 this morning. Denise and I split 4 of them. That's mostly regular for us. Vitamin B12, there we go. 500 milligram mcg, 500 mcg, Solgar, 1 tablet a day. B12 hypovitaminosis is linked with the development of AD pathology. Magnesium L-threonate, mg, 144 mg, Magtine, 2 tablets a day. A meta-analysis found that mg, magnesium deficiency, may be a risk factor of AD. An mg supplementation may be an adjunctive treatment for AD. Next one, oh my gosh, so many supplements. Heracurium erinaceus, lion's mane, Stamets host defense, 2 grams per day. Lion's mane may produce significant improvements in cognition and function in healthy people over 50 and in MCI patients compared to placebo. Super Bifido plus probiotic, this is the last one, I think, Flora, 1 tablet a day. A meta-analysis suggests that probiotics may benefit AD patients. All right. That's the end of supplements. Primary outcome measures. Actually, comment below about what you think about all these supplements. If I'm just curious as to your opinion. I think you probably know, you already know ours. I already told you about B12 and maybe D, and that's about it. Primary outcome measures, cognition and function testing. 4 tests were used to assess changes in cognition and function in these patients. These are standard measures of cognition and function included in many FDA drug trials. ADAS-COG, Clinical Global Compression of Change, CGIC, Clinical Dementia Rating, Sum of Boxes, CDR-SB, Clinical Dementia Rating Global, CDR Global. We've heard about these earlier in the study. All cognition and function raters were trained psychometrists with expertise in administering these tests in clinical trials. Efforts were made to have the same person perform cognitive tests at each visit to reduce inter-observer variability. That's good. It should be always the same person if you ask me, but at least it did that. Those doing ADAS-COG assessments were certified raters and tested patients in person. The CGIC and CDR tests were administered for all patients via Zoom by different raters than the ADAS.COG. Also, raters were blind to treatment arm to the degree possible, whatever that means. I wish they were completely blind, but it doesn't say that. Secondary outcome measures, biomarkers, and microbiome. These are described in the supplemental materials section. These include blood-based biomarkers such as plasma AB42-40 ratio and microbiome TAXA, microbiome taxa organisms. All right, that's now on to page 6 of 17. Statistical methods. These are described in the supplemental materials section. Results. There we go. The recruitment effort for this trial lasted from January 23rd, 2018 to June 16th, 2022. That's a long time. The most effective recruitment method was referral from the subject's physician or healthcare provider. Additional recruitment efforts included advertising in print and digital media, speaking to community groups, mentioning the study during podcast and radio interviews, like we're doing here, collaborating with research institutions that provide dementia diagnosis and treatment, and contracting a clinical trials recruitment service, LINEA, L-I-N-E-A. A total of 1,585 people contacted us. Of those, 1,300 people did not meet the inclusion criteria, 102 declined. They declined participation, and 132 were screening incomplete when enrollment closed, resulting in the enrollment of 51 participants. Figure 1. This shows this in a flow chart, basically, I guess. All right, so you're not gonna be able to see that, although I may show it to you. Let me see if I can show that to you. Let's see. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, but there we go. You can kind of pause it. That is it right there. Okay. Next side of the page. This is a short page. The remaining 51 participants were randomized to an intervention group of 26 patients that received the lifestyle intervention for 20 weeks, or to a usual care control group of 25 patients that was asked not to make any lifestyle changes. 2 patients in the intervention group withdrew during the intervention because they did not want to continue the diet and lifestyle changes. Oh, okay. I thought it was because of Zoom, because they said that Zoom kind of popped up because of the pandemic, but just because they couldn't hack it. They weren't open-minded enough. And yeah, I acknowledge changing any habit is one of the hardest things you can ever ask of somebody. No patients in the control group withdrew prior to the 20-week testing. People didn't have to change anything. They kept going. That's easy, right? Easy stuff. Analyses were performed on the remaining 49 patients. No patients were lost to follow-up. That's good. All of the 49 patients had plasma AB42-40 ratios of less than 0.089. All were less than 0.0672, strongly supporting the diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. At baseline, there were no statistically significant differences between the intervention group and the randomized control group in any measures, including demographic characteristics, cognitive function measures, or biomarkers. All right, so I'm going to go to the next page. Now, what we've got over here is just a chart. It's got some text at the bottom, but I'm going to kind of get you the chart so you can see it, if this works. It's focusing. I think it's focusing. There you go. You should be able to pause it. Well, maybe, and see the numbers. It was focusing. No, there, right there. All right, that's as good as we're going to get. Let me read what's at the bottom of this page. Cognition and function testing primary analysis. Results after 20 weeks of a multimodal intensive lifestyle intervention in all patients showed overall statistically significant differences between the intervention group and the randomized control group in cognitive and function in the CGIC P equals 0.001, CDR-SB P equals 0.032, and CDR Global P equals 0.037 tests, and a borderline significance in the ADAS.COG test P equals 0.053, table 3, and there's a table there. 3 of these measures, I think that's what I just showed you actually. 3 of these measures, CGIC, CDR Global, and ADAS.COG, showed improvements in cognition and function in the intervention group and worsening in the control group. And 1 test, CDR-SB, showed significantly less progression when compared with the randomized control group, with worsened in all 4 of these measures. Okay, next. Primary analysis with outlier included, table 3. Number 1. CGIC, Clinical Global Impression of Change. These scores improved in the intervention group and worsened in the control group. Fisher's exact p-value equals 0.001. 10 people in the intervention group showed improvement compared to none in the control group. 7 people in the intervention group and 8 people in the control group were unchanged. 7 people in the intervention group showed minimal worsening compared to 14 in the control group. None in the intervention group showed moderate worsening compared with 3 in the control group. That's on that 1 test. Keep that in mind, the CGIC. I think it's going through them 1 at a time. Now this is, here's table 3. I don't know if you're gonna be able to read this. That's what this whole page is, almost a table all by itself. Can you see that? All right, hopefully you could see that momentarily. It just goes in and out of focus. Maybe it's got, my camera has dementia, I don't know. Number 2, CDR-Global, Clinical Dementia Rating Global. These scores improved in the intervention group from 0.69 to 0.65 and worsened in the randomized control group from 0.66 to 0.74. The mean difference equals 0.12, P equals 0.037. So that was consistent across everything there. The third one, number 3, ADAS.COG, Alzheimer's Disease Assessment Scale. These scores improved in the intervention group from 21.551 to 20.536 and worsened in the randomized control group from 21.252 to 22.160. Mean group difference of change equals 1.923 points. P equals 0.053, table 3 and figure 3. ADAS.COG testing in 1 intervention group patient was not administered properly, so it was excluded. I guess I have to note all that. That's good. All right, and then the 4th one, the test, CDR.SB, Clinical Dementia Rating Sum of Boxes. Let me go down to the next page. I got to show you some more things. Okay, well, I'll finish reading this first. These scores worsened significantly more in the control group from 3.34 to 3.86 than in the intervention group from 3.27 to 3.35. Mean group difference equals 0.44, P equals 0.032, table 3 and figure 4. There were no significant differences in depression scores as measured by PHQ-9 between the intervention and control group. That's good. All right, now let me show you these. This is going to be figure 2 and figure 3. I'm trying to, hopefully they'll focus. So look quickly and screenshot it if you can see that. See how it goes in and out of focus. Ah, come on. How I trick it, I go over here and go boom. So you get it for a split second there. Okay. Now, next area, secondary sensitivity analysis. 1 patient in the intervention group was a clear statistical outlier in his cognitive function testing based on standardized mathematical definitions. None was an outlier in the control group. Therefore, this patient's data were excluded from a secondary sensitivity analysis. These results show statistically significant differences in all 4 of the measures of cognition and function, Table 4. These measures, ADAS.COG, CGIC, and CDR Global, showed significant improvement in cognition and function, and one, CDR-SB, showed significantly less worsening when compared to the randomized control group, which worsened in all 4 of these measures. All right. And we've got, this is figure 4. See if I can get you to zoom. I'll zoom in, see if I can get the numbers and the figure for this for a split second. All right, I think you got that for a little bit of time. Okay, good. Not as much text here. We're almost on page, this is page 10 already. All right. We are moving along. Sensitivity analysis with outlier excluded. There were no significant differences in depression scores as measured by PHQ-9 between the intervention and control groups in either analysis. A reason why this patient may have been a statistical outlier is that he reported intense situational stress before his testing. Okay. As a second sensitivity analysis, the same outlier patient was retested when he was calmer, and all 4 measures, ADAS.COG or -COG, CGIC, CDR Global, and CDR-SB, showed significant improvement in cognition and function, whereas the randomized control group worsened in all 4 of these measures. All right, next, biomarker results. We selected biomarkers that have been have a known role in the in the pathophysiology, I never even heard of that word before, of AD, Table 4. Of note is that the plasma AB42/40 ratio increased in the intervention group, but decreased in the randomized control group, P equals 0.003 two-tail. And we're going to show you that. I'm going to show you that. Let's see if I can. Whoops. Get a little bit bigger. Table 5. Well, here's table 5. If it comes out, hopefully it goes. There you go. I didn't even expect I was going to try to show you these, but there you go. It's all for a split. There you go. Hopefully you got something out of that. All right, correlation of lifestyle index and cognitive function. In the clinical trial, despite the inherent limitations of self-reported data, we found statistically significant correlations between the degree of lifestyle change from baseline to 20 weeks and the degree of change in 3 or 4 measures of cognition and function, as well as correlations between the adherence to desired lifestyle changes at just a 20-week time point and the degree of change in 2 of the 4 measures of cognition and function, and borderline significance in the 4th measure. ADAS.COG, correlation with lifestyle at 20 weeks, P equals 0.052, correlation 0.241. Correlation with degree of change in lifestyle, P equals 0.015, correlation 0.317. CDR-SB, correlation with lifestyle at 20 weeks, P equals 0.043, correlation 0.251. Correlation with degree of correlation with degree of change in lifestyle, P equals 0.081, correlation 0.205. CDR Global, correlation with lifestyle at 20 weeks, P equals 0.065, correlation 0.221. Correlation with degree of change in lifestyle, P equals 0.024, correlation 0.286. CGIC, correlation with lifestyle at 20 weeks, P equals 0.002. I'm going to move to the next column. Correlation with degree of change in lifestyle, P equals 0.0005. CGIC tests are non-parametric analysis, so standard effect size calculations are not included for this measure. Also, we found a significant correlation between dietary total fat intake, and changes in the CGIC measure, P equals 0.001. But this was not significant for the other 3 measures. Okay, well, at least one is saying, obviously, I think too much fat equals problems with your brain. Of course, 0 fat, well, your brain will shut down, but nobody has that problem. They're getting too much fat. Correlation of lifestyle index and biomarker data. In the current clinical trial, despite the inherent limitations of self-reported data, we found statistically significant correlations between the degree of lifestyle change from baseline to 20 weeks and the degree of change in many of the key biomarkers, as well as correlations between the degree of lifestyle change at 20 weeks and the degree of change in these biomarkers. Plasma AB42-40 ratio, correlation with lifestyle at 20 weeks, P equals 0.035, correlation 0.306. Excuse me, that's my nice screen. Correlation with degree of change in lifestyle, P equals 0.068, correlation 0.266. GLYCA, correlation with lifestyle at 20 weeks, P equals 0.011, correlation 0.363. Correlation with degree of change in lifestyle, P equals 0.007, correlation 0.383. LDL cholesterol, this is one of the more common ones. Correlation with lifestyle at 20 weeks, P equals 0.0001, correlation 0.678. Correlation with degree in change of lifestyle, P also less than 0.0001, correlation 0.628. So they didn't see anything, doesn't seem like, with that one. All right, we're moving along. Page 12 of 17. Beta hydroxybutyrate ketones. Correlation with lifestyle at 20 weeks, P equals 0.013, correlation 0.372. Correlation with degree of change in lifestyle, P equals 0.034, correlation 0.320. p-tau 181, correlation with lifestyle at 20 weeks, P equals 0.228, correlation 0.177. Correlation with degree of change in lifestyle, P equals 0.135, correlation 0.219. GFAP, global fibrillary acidic protein, correlation with lifestyle at 20 weeks, P equals 0.096, correlation 0.243. Correlation with degree of change in lifestyle, P equals 0.351, correlation 0.138. What degree of lifestyle change is correlated with improvement in cognitive function tests? What degree of lifestyle changes is needed to stop or improve the worsening of MCI or early dementia due to AD? In other words, what percentage of adherence to the lifestyle intervention was correlated with no change in MCI or dementia across both groups? Higher adherence than this degree of lifestyle change was associated with improvements in MCI or dementia. All right, we're going to go through a couple of things here. ADS.COG, correlation with lifestyle at 20 weeks, 71.4% adherence. So this is, I guess, how closely you have to adhere, right? So you see the change, okay? So that one you have to adhere in a giant way. Next one, CDR.SB, correlation with lifestyle at 20 weeks, 120.6% adherence. CGR Global, correlation with lifestyle at 20 weeks, 95.6%. Maybe I don't fully understand that. You can explain that to me in the comments. Microbiome results. There was a significant and beneficial change in the microbiome configuration in the intervention group, but not in the control group. Several taxa, groups of microorganisms that increased only in the intervention group, were consistent with those involved in reduced AD risk in other studies. For example, Blautia, which increased during the intervention of the intervention group, has previously been associated with a lower risk of AD, potentially due to its involvement in increasing Y-aminobutyric acid GABA, GABA production. Eubacterium also increased during the intervention in the intervention group, and prior studies have identified, I'm going to go next column, have identified Eubacterium genera, namely Eubacterium Fisicatena, as a protective factor in AD. There was also a decrease in relative abundance of taxa involved in increased AD risk in the intervention group, e.g. Prevotella and Turkibacter, the latter of which has been associated with relevant biological processes such as 5-HT production. Petravella and Triobacter have previously shown to increase with disease progression, and these taxa decreased over the course of the intervention. All right, good. These results support the hypothesis that lifestyle intervention may beneficially modify specific microbial groups in the microbiome, suggesting that lower risk of AD and decreasing those that increase the risk of AD. Please see supplement for more detailed information. Discussion. We report the first randomized controlled trial showing that an intensive multimodal lifestyle intervention may significantly improve cognition and function and may allay biological features in many patients with MCI or early dementia due to AD after 20 weeks. After 20 weeks, 5 months of a multimodal intensive lifestyle intervention. Results of the primary analyses, when all patients were included, showed overall statistically significant differences between the intervention group and the randomized control group in cognition and function as measured by CGIC P equals 0.001, CDR-SB P equals 0.032, and CDR Global P equals 0.037 tests, and of borderline significance in the ADAS.COG test P equals 0.053. 3 of these measures, CGIC, CGR Global, CDAS-COG, showed improvement in cognition and function in the intervention group and worsening in the randomized control group, and 1 test, CDR-SB, showed less progression in the intervention group when compared with the control group, which worsened in all 4 of these measures. These differences were even clearer in a secondary sensitivity analysis when a mathematical outlier was excluded, and they mentioned this one earlier. These results showed statistically significant differences between groups in all 4 of these measures of cognition and function. 3 of these measures showed improvement in cognition and function, and 1, CDR-SB, showed less deterioration when compared with the randomized control group, which worsened in all 4 of the measures. The validity of these changes in cognition and function and possible biological mechanisms of improvement is supported by the observed changes in several clinically relevant biomarkers that showed statistically significant differences in a beneficial direction after 20 weeks, 5 months, when compared to the randomized control group. All right, page 13 of 17. One of the most clinically relevant biomarkers is the plasma AB42-40 ratio, which increased by 6.4% in the intervention group and decreased by 8.3% in the randomized control group after 20 weeks. And these differences were statistically significant, P equals 0.003 tailed. In the lecanemab trial, plasma levels of the AB41-42 biomarker increased with the intervention group over 18 months, with the presumption that this reflected amyloid moving from the brain to the plasma. We found similar results in the direction of change in the plasma AB42-40 ratio from this lifestyle intervention, but only in only 20 weeks. So that previously it was 18 months. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Again, it's so fast that it happens. It's incredible. Conversely, this biomarker decreased in the control group as in the lecanemab trial, which may indicate increased cerebral uptake of amyloid. Not good. Other clinically relevant biomarkers also showed statistically significant differences two-tailed in a beneficial direction after 20 weeks when compared with the randomized control group. These included hemoglobin A1C, insulin, glycoprotein, acetyls, GLYCA, LDL cholesterol, and hydroxybutyrate ketone bodies. Improvements in these biomarkers provides more biological plausibility for the observed improvements in cognition and function, as well as more insight into the possible mechanisms of improvement. This information may also help in predicting which patients are more likely to show improvements in cognition and function by making these intensive lifestyle changes. Other relevant biomarkers were in a beneficial direction of change in the intervention group compared with the randomized control group after 20 weeks. These include p-tau181, GFAP, CRP, SAA, and C-peptide. Telomere length also increased in the intervention group. That's awesome. And was essentially unchanged in the control group. These differences were not statistically significant, even when there was an order of magnitude difference between the groups. I wonder why. As with GFAP and p-tau181, or an almost fourfold difference, as with CRP, but these changes were in a beneficial direction, but they're statistically insignificant. Somebody explain that to me in the comments. I don't understand. At least in part, these findings may be due to a relatively small sample size and/or short duration of only 20 weeks. We found a statistically significant dose-response correlation between the degree of lifestyle changes in both groups, quote, lifestyle index, unquote, and the degree of change in many of the biomarkers. This correlation was found in both the degree of change in lifestyle from baseline to 20 weeks, as well as the lifestyle measured at 20 weeks. These correlations would add to the biological plausibility of these findings. We also found a statistically significant dose-response correlation between the degree of lifestyle changes in both groups, quote, lifestyle index, unquote, and changes in most measures of cognition and function testing. In short, the more these AD patients change their lifestyle in the, I gotta go next column, in the prescribed ways, the greater was the beneficial impact on their cognition and function. These correlations also add to the biological plausibility of these findings. The variation in adherence helps to explain in part why some patients in the intervention group improved and others did not. But there are also likely other mechanisms that we do not fully understand that may play a role. These statistically significant correlations are especially meaningful given the greater variability of self-reported data. The relatively small, I was wondering about that earlier, right? The relatively small sample size and the short duration of the intervention. These findings are consistent with earlier clinical trials, which we used in the same lifestyle intervention and the same measure of lifestyle index, and found significant dose-response correlations between this lifestyle index, i.e. the degree of lifestyle changes, and the changes in the degree of coronary atherosclerosis, meaning percent diameter stenosis in coronary heart disease. So many footnotes here. Changes in PSA levels and LNCAP cell growth in men with prostate cancer, and changes in telomere length. We also found significant differences between the intervention and control groups in several taxa, groups of microorganisms in the microbiome, which may be beneficial. There were no significant differences in depression scores as measured by PHQ-9 between the intervention and control groups. Therefore, reduction in depression is unlikely to account for the overall improvement in cognition and function seen in the intervention group patients. Yeah, I would think that you would become less depressed if you're eating more fiber and getting more exercise, but I guess they didn't see it here. It's a little bit disappointing. Well, I mean, maybe they just need a better study, because they're kind of shooting holes in their own study, and what I'm seeing here, the way that they're describing things. We also found that substantial lifestyle changes were required to stop the progression of MCI in these patients. In the primary analysis, this ranged from 71.4% adherence for ADAS-COG to 95.6% adherence for CDR-global to 120.6% adherence for CDR-SB. In other words, extensive lifestyle changes were required to stop or improve cognition and function in these patients. This helps to explain why other studies of less intensive lifestyle interventions may not have been sufficient to stop deterioration or improve cognition and function. For example, comparing these results to the MIND-AD clinical trial provides more biological plausibility for both studies. That is, more moderate multimodal lifestyle changes may slow the rate of worsening cognition and function in MCI or early dementia due to early stage AD, whereas more intensive multimodal lifestyle changes may result in overall average improvements in many measures of cognition and function when compared to a randomized usual care control group in both clinical trials. So a more moderate, a slow, but a more intensive, result in overall average improvements. Okay, I would hone in on that paragraph right there. Replay it, go back and listen to it again. Anyway, more work is needed, that's for sure. More studies. Lifestyle changes may provide additional benefits to patients on drug therapy. Anti-amyloid antibodies have shown modest effects on slowing progression, but they, page 14, are expensive, have potential for adverse events, are not yet widely available, and do not result in overall cognition improvement. Perhaps there may be more synergy from doing both. Limitations. This study has several limitations. Only 51 patients were enrolled and randomized in our study, and 2 of these patients, both in the intervention group, withdrew during the trial. Showing statistically significant differences across different tests of cognition and function and other measures, despite the relatively small sample size, suggests that the lifestyle intervention may be especially effective and has strong internal validity. However, the small sample size limits the general generalizability, especially since there was much less racial and ethnic diversity in the sample than we strive to achieve. Also, we measured these differences despite the relative insensitivity of these measures, which may have been increased and likelihood of type 2 error. All right. So basically, I think this is all white people is what they're trying to say. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I never heard that word generalizability before, but I guess I'll start using that. Raters were blinded to the group assignment of the participants. However, like a double-blind placebo-controlled drug trial, it is not possible to blind subjects in a lifestyle intervention about whether or not they are receiving the intervention. This may have affected outcome measures, although, so they know they got the intervention, and the other people who didn't, somebody explained that to me, but yeah, why is that? Why? This may have affected some outcome measures, although to reduce positive expectations and because it was true, patients were told during the study that we did not know whether or not this lifestyle intervention would be beneficial. And we said that whatever we showed would be useful. Whatever we showed would be useful. Also, 20 weeks is a relatively short time for an intervention with MCI and early dementia due to AD. We did not include direct measures of brain structure in this trial. We cannot determine whether there were direct impacts on markers on brain pathology relevant to AD. However, surrogate markers such as plasma AB42/40 ratio are becoming more widely accepted. Not all patients in the intervention group improved. Of the 24 patients in the intervention group, 10 showed improvement as measured by the CGIC test. 7 were unchanged and 7 worsened. In the control group, none improved, 8 were unchanged, and 17 worsened. In part, this may be explained by variations in the adherence to the lifestyle intervention, i.e., I'm putting this in there, compliance. Compliance is always an issue, no matter what. You can't force somebody to do something. That's the thing. In part, this may be explained by variations in adherence to the lifestyle intervention, as there was a significant relationship between the degree of lifestyle change and the degree of change in cognition and function across both groups. We hope that further research may further clarify other factors and mechanisms to help explain why cognition and function improved in some patients, but not in others. Go to the next column. This is the second half of page 14. The findings on the degree of lifestyle change required to stop the worsening or improve cognition and function need to be interpreted with caution. Since data from both groups were combined, it was no longer a randomized trial for the specific analysis, so there could be unknown confounding influences. Also, it is possible that those with improved changes in cognition were better able to adhere to the intervention and thus have higher lifestyle indices. So they're saying because they had improvement, they were even better, I guess, enabled to adhere to the intervention. So it's like a positive feedback loop. That's interesting. But they're saying that makes it an unfair study because you created a positive feedback loop. Somebody explain that to me in the comments. Conclusions. In summary, in persons with mild cognitive impairment or early dementia due to Alzheimer's disease, comprehensive lifestyle changes may improve cognition and function in several standard measures after 20 weeks. In contrast, patients with the randomized control group showed overall worsening in 4 measures of cognition and function during this time. The validity of these findings was supported by the observed changes in plasma biomarkers and microbiome, the dose-response correlation of the degree of lifestyle changes with the degree of improvement in all 4 measures of cognition and function, and the correlation between the degree of lifestyle change and the degree of changes in the AB42/40 ratio and the changes in some other relevant biomarkers in a beneficial direction. Our findings also have implications for helping to prevent AD. Newer technologies, some aided by artificial intelligence, enable the probable diagnosis of AD years before it becomes clinically apparent. Okay, so early diagnosis, that's awesome. Because we know it develops over years and years and years, if not decades. However, many people do not want to know if they are likely to get AD if they do not believe they can do anything about it. Oh my gosh, yeah, I guess that's true. It's funny, I kind of grew up in the 70s and 80s. I definitely did. And that was definitely a line of thinking, but we know so much now. We know so much. I would think the average person would want to know more, but if you're old school and you have a closed mind and you decide not to learn anything anymore, I guess that is definitely a factor still. If intensive lifestyle changes may cause improvement in cognition and function in MCI or early dementia due to AD, then it is reasonable to think that these lifestyle changes may also help to prevent MCI or early dementia due to AD. Also, it may take less extensive lifestyle changes to help prevent AD than to treat it. It may take less extensive lifestyle changes to help prevent AD than to treat it. So act early. That should be a motivator for you. Yeah, it really, really should. Other studies cited earlier on the effects of these lifestyle changes on diseases such as coronary heart disease support this conclusion. Clearly, the intensive lifestyle changes rather than moderate ones seem to be required to improve cognition and function in those suffering from early stage AD. So you got to go all in. That's what they're saying. You have to go all in. Don't just half-ass it. You half-ass anything, you get half-ass results. And don't do this, especially when you have a chance of creating some real positive impact in your life. These findings support longer follow-up and larger clinical trials to determine the longer-term outcomes of the intensive lifestyle medicine intervention in large groups of more diverse AD populations. Why some patients beneficially respond to a lifestyle intervention better than others, besides difference in adherence, as well as the potential synergy of these lifestyle changes and some drug therapies. All right, page 15 of 17. I think that's basically it. Then there's the supplementary information. Wow. So that's basically it. I'm not going to read these declarations and acknowledgments and availability of data. That's, if you want, like I said, email me, aPlantBasedDiet.org at gmail.com. I will send you this PDF. Okay, you can have it. This is the best way to get the PDF. Just aPlantBased, you can't even read that. Yeah, aPlantBasedDiet.org at gmail.com. You get all the footnotes. You're not going to be able to read that. And another page of footnotes. At least 2 pages of footnotes. All right, so that's it. It only took about an hour and a half to read that entire study. Well, I am glad that I did, because now it's kind of locked into my brain, and I'm going to be more prepared for the appointment in 2 days. Actually, it's almost exactly 48 hours from now. And I will, if you want to know about the appointment, you have my email address. You can ask us there. We may end up making a video, I'd say, of how this experience went. And if we do get approval for some changes based on this Ornish study from her primary care physician, the DO actually, then we will maybe track that too, what the prescription is, or the change in care, the recommendations, and then how those are followed through on, if they're followed through on, because there may be resistance, of course, and how the compliance level is going, because all that matters, as you heard from this study, all of it matters, and we really need to get the word out that there is some kind of hope. And again, I'm very hopeful after reading this whole study, and again, I don't understand why the folks that I heard about 10 days ago said that there is no way to reverse any of this. Did you get that from listening to this study? Is that your takeaway, that there's no way to reverse this dementia? I mean, yeah, when the brain cells die, they're dead, right? But before that, that's what these people are, early people. I'm hopeful anyway. So thanks so much for watching. If you don't subscribe already, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.